Hi, everybody. This is Rachel, and I'm going to be discussing a historical legacy that has persisted as a contemporary issue, and that is the relationship of low socioeconomic status and the access to higher education. So, until the mid 1960s, colleges and public universities were tuition free. But that began to change in 1966 when Ronald Reagan, who is currently the governor of California, proposed charging tuition at University of California institutions as a way to get rid of undesirables. This was Reagan's way of upholding white supremacy within higher education as immense social change was happening and due to racial trends and poverty. This was the era of desegregation and shortly after the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And by the 1990s, every formally public school was paid for by tuition costs and began the trend of acquiring student loan debt in order to attend college or university. Since then, tuition costs have risen 3,819% from 1964 to 2019 directly due to Reagan's legislation. Around 1 million new defaults on student loans occur each year, and student debt has quadrupled from 2004 to 2019, now sitting around $1.6 trillion. We are again seeing this trend in an access to higher education through legislation trying to pass under the Trump administration that would dismantle the Department of Education and restrict qualification for federal student aid programs, mainly targeting low SES students. According to the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, low-income students cannot afford to attend 95% of colleges. This coincides with what the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center calls an unprecedented decline in the number of students from high poverty in low-income high schools immediately going into higher education. Since the pandemic, college attendance has dropped nearly 1 million, and over the past decade, it's dropped by nearly 3 million enrolled students. When we combine the rising cost of living and the threat of crippling student loan debt, it is understandable that many low-income students are discouraged from pursuing a college education. When there is inequitable access to higher education, we perpetuate the cycle of poverty as more jobs are requiring bachelor's degree and low SES people will typically receive lower salaries and be unable to achieve upward social mobility. Despite the seemingly bleak circumstances, there are some legislation changes that have helped to try to bridge the educational gap. Certain states have founded and funded programs that provide tuition assistance for low SES students. The California Promise Grant, Indiana's 21st Century Scholar Program, and Washington State's College Grant are just a few examples. With the vast geographic diversity of the U.S., not everyone is located somewhere that allows easy access to receive higher education. This, in tandem with low SES, creates even more challenges for students. Relocation is a very real consideration for many students when considering college, especially those living in extremely rural or impoverished areas. Commuting, room and board, and meal plan costs are all added expenses and considerations low SES students must consider when they do not live near college campuses. The potential to even be admitted into a university can be impacted by geographic location. Residential segregation leads to higher SES families concentrating in school districts with greater allocations for funds and resources. Many lower-class communities do not have funding to provide things such as college prep courses, AP classes, or even higher qualified or experienced teachers. This perpetuates the academic achievement gap between poor and wealthy students as they prepare for higher education. Culture also plays a large role in the conversation. There is less of an expectation on poor students to even attend college, and some families place a greater emphasis on familial obligations, financial or otherwise, than seeking higher education, especially when they are experiencing financial strife. The stress of trying to maintain a work, life, and school balance may discourage low SES students from attending college. In his New York Times article, Anthony Abraham Jack explained that there is also a fear of the unknown for many first-generation students. They have to learn a completely new environment of college life without any insight or guidance from family, and it can be an extremely stressful and lonely journey. His experience with the college admissions process could also be a journey many minority students would not want to be subjected to. Trying to appeal to upper middle class, white admissions officers, he states, "Make them cry, we hear, and so we pimp out our trauma for a shot at a future we want but can't fully imagine." There remains predatory inclusion, offering services to minority households on exploitative terms that limit or eliminate their long-term benefit. Gender and race also play a role in student loan inequities, with 81% of Black graduates borrowing compared to 63% of white borrowers. 4 years post-grad, Black graduates have an average loan balance that is twice as much as white graduates. This is important when we consider that gender and racial wage gaps still exist in the labor force, so disadvantaged populations are leaving higher education with greater amounts of debt and lower salaries. Lastly, we must address the implications on education this phenomenon presents and perpetuates. When we have lower college attendance, crucial fields like healthcare, social work, and education will experience shortages of workers. Educational goals also cannot be achieved when there is a lack of resources for low SES students. Furthermore, a lack of motivation for academic success during primary education can occur when students are not receiving adequate resources through school, or they know that financial strife will inhibit their ability to continue into higher education. Overall, there is a great need for more programs that allocate funds appropriately and equitably for underprivileged students in order to begin bridging the gaps in academic success. One program that was introduced to begin bridging this gap is California's Local Control Funding Formula, the LCFF, that redistributes funds to target greater funding to poor students.